When and how did the Chromatic Bandoneon, also known as the unisonoric bandoneon, come into existence? What are the main features of this instrument? In this video, we talk with Olivier Manoury, expert in the Chromatic Bandoneon, to explore its history, debunk common myths, and help those who are unsure about which bandoneon to start with. We'll introduce you to this particular kind of bandoneon with an intuitive keyboard that is easy to memorize and quick to learn. This video will allow you to make an informed decision on which type of bandoneon is the best for you, depending on the repertoire you wish to play. Now, let's begin the talk with Olivier Manoury, the Chromatic Bandoneon, history, features, and myths. So, Olivier, thank you for this call together. Welcome. You are a very famous bandoneon player, one of the first in Europe, in France. Would you like to introduce yourself, your story? How did you meet the bandoneon, and so on?
Okay, I'll make it short. I had my father organized folkloric music show, and there were accordion players there, and many accordion players in this this is about in the between 60s and 70s. A lot of accordion players, they played the bandoneon as a second instrument. So in the dancing balls, for instance, in France, most of the music was played in the accordion, but for the tango, the light turned red, and it was like the slow, the couples firm, and the accordionist started to play with his bandoneon. So they played. They were not super bandoneon players, but they played correctly, and they just learned like 15 tangos. And so I heard very early the bandoneon in France, and I was always very fascinated by this atmosphere of tango because when the light is red, the cigarettes, they look blue. So you had everybody smoked at this time, even the dancer, they smoked.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you had all of a sudden it was messy and noisy, and then there was silence, and then it was this magic tango full of smoke, people having this blue cigarette, with a blue making a blue light and this red light, and the music. So it was really something. I have a very vivid souvenir of that.
So this was in which decade? Which?
64, 65, before 70 anyway.
Yeah, of course. And I suppose those bandoneon players, they were playing the chromatic, the
Yeah,
unisonoric.
yeah, they were playing unisonoric bandoneon. A few of them played Argentinian system. When I grew up with Jimi Hendrix and rock and roll. These years, the 70s. I really didn't like. Well, I liked accordion. I knew accordion music, but I wasn't interested in that. But somehow, um, when I was 25, I found the bandoneon in a shop. The guy didn't want to he didn't want to sell it. He said, no, you cannot buy that. You will never work with that. There's no job. It's finished. The bandoneon has been there on the shelf for 10 years, full of dust. He said, no, you don't want to buy that. You want to buy electronic accordion. But I say, no, I want this thing there. And he really did his best not to sell it to me, because he thought I would lose my time. And finally, I insisted so much. He sold it to me. I came home, and wow, man, I started to play, and this was it. You know, if you start to play a bandoneon, you fell for it. And I learned a few tangos by ear. I never studied any music, so I learned a few tangos by ear from records, from LPs. You know, my father had some tango LPs, and then I went to. I had been to military service, and for 1 year I came back to Paris. I had no job, no money, so I started to go in the metro, in the subway, and started to play there, busking. And little by little, you know, people made circles and listened to that. A lot of old people remembered tango; they liked it, and so my 5, 6 tango were too short. I started to make repertoire. And then I met a lot of Argentinian people because it was during the dictator in Buenos Aires. So there
Yeah.
was many refugees, Argentine refugees, mostly artists and musicians, were in Paris. Musicians, they went to Paris because they knew there was some interest for this music there. So I met very soon. I met two guitar players, good guitar players, and they started to make it. We made a trio, guitarron, guitarra, guitarron. They played in the metro too, so we met and decided to play together. And they gave me the real Argentinian tango. I knew only old stuff from like Francisco Canaro, you know, old stuff, or Gardel, which I love, you know. But so they gave me cassettes. It was the time of cassettes. So they gave me Troilo, they gave me Pugliese, they gave me Piazzolla, they gave me all them things, you know. And I picked up by ear all that because they also played by ear the guitar. So we played. There was no music, only by memory.
And I remember you told me that you met Mussolini. Uh,
Yeah, I had seen Mussolini the first time he came to Paris. He was playing with Susanna Rinaldi, and I remember his face. You know, you can't forget his face. He had the eyes like this, long white hair, beard, and I remember this face. And then I was playing in the metro, and then he stood there. He heard me, stopped, and I got so nervous because I had never met a real professional mandolin player. And he was very nice to me. He took me to his home and showed me a lot of things. He wanted me to change system, of course, but I didn't want. But he told me a lot of things about relaxation, how to, I mean, things I still use today. He was a great player.
the bandoneon in general. So let's make a little introduction about this word instrument, very strange instrument.
So to make it, I will try to make it short. The idea, the invention of the free reed. You know, the free reed. This is this metal which is vibrating over the plate. This is big. This is a 19th century invention. It has never been done before. People talk about the Chinese Cheng and things like this, but this is another system. You need a pipe. It
Yeah.
doesn't work without a pipe. The real free reed is invented in Europe, in Germany probably. And so they start immediately to make instrument with that. Like for instance, they make harmonica. You know, so the harmonica is the first instrument, probably one of the first instrument made for that with free reeds, and it's still the same. So this instrument uh, could play only one note, no, could play chord and things like that. There was at the same time there was accordions. The accordions they were like a medieval table organ. You put it on the table. You have a small keyboard, and you have a bellows, a bellows which opens like a book. You know.
Yeah.
So you need one hand to make
Hey, yeah.
the keys, and with the other hand you make the wind.
Yeah.
And there is one guy which is not famous, but it's the guy who started the whole thing. He's called Bushman. He had this incredible idea that we have one hand for the wind, we have one hand for the keyboard. I will put another accordion in the other side, and I will do the bellows in the middle. This instrument still exists in the museum. It was called handaiolina, unisonic bandoneon, which opens like a book, like you open the book, with the bellows in the middle, and with a piano layout.
Earlier than Ulig concertina,
Yeah,
or
this is
wow.
this is the first idea of who started all the accordions, which then invaded the world in 60 years. I mean, it's incredible because this guy started it all. Then comes Ulig. What the idea of Ulig is that we put harmonica in a box and we make a few buttons to open the holes.
Yeah.
And if you see that this is the reed block for a bandoneon, it's like a harmonica.
It's like an harmonica.
It's really the idea of putting an harmonica inside the box. He made very small bandoneon, which was a bit big as a CD, for instance. You can imagine a CD.
Yeah.
With 6-7 buttons on each side. And this was a totally diatonic, like the harmonica. You had half the scale opening and half the scale pushing.
Yeah, like the organetto in Italy as well.
Yeah, and the idea of this time was because they liked small instruments. Because then they made accordions which are like organs, but the first the idea was to have twice as much note as button. The idea was that the reed works only in one way of the air, so they needed you could play, for instance, opening, but if you want to play pushing, you need another reed.
Okay, so Ulig invented the German concertina.
Yeah,
Then
German.
before going to Banda, Heinrich Banda, we have another interesting.
This is much before. Then before Heinrich Banda, you have Zimmermann.
Zimmermann, yes.
So Zimmermann is a guy, I think he married the daughter of Ulig or something like that in Germany, and starts a workshop making concertina. But he's the one who started to put more buttons because he had the demand for the musicians. You could play only in A. The first instrument is in A major, and A major opening, E7
closing.
And so people say, okay, I want to play this tune and I need a natural, not a C sharp, but a natural C or something like that.
Yeah.
And then little by little, he has been adding buttons, but on the demand of musicians. For instance, one guy says, oh, put me a C natural here. Okay. Then he puts a second harmonica and make 2 rows of buttons. And then later he puts another set of harmonica inside and make 3 rows or 4 rows of buttons. So it has been only increasing. This is what they call in computer, they call the ascending compatibility. And it was the same. You know how to play these polkas and this march and this valse. You want another note, but you don't want to change the notes which are there already because you don't want to lose what you have learned. So little by little, adding harmonicas, I mean, which we can read blocks, adding ring blocks in the box, and if you need another note, you put them at the end.
Yeah, not in the middle.
You make it longer. You cannot put in the middle because you would change the system. So if one guy puts a natural C at this place, this C will stay for 200 years. It's still there. It's still there on the instrument you play.
Yeah, that's why for example, in the 142, the bass notes are around the central keyboard. They are all spread around.
Yeah, because they have been added last.
Yeah. So the logic is just we need space. We put them where we can.
Yeah. Actually, there is no logic. There is a history. There is a historic explanation, but it's not logic. It's
not
just
logic. Yeah.
People have been aggregating more notes to get more functions. Of course, they put the note where they feel like it would be fine. It's not absurd. but it was mostly used for certain keys. And then you have keys like E flat minor, which is really complicated because nobody played in E flat minor. So you had the keys were assembled in a way that would fit people to play their music.
Yeah, yeah, it works in the Bandoneon 142. It works because I think, this is my opinion, that the human being is very resilient, can adapt to almost everything. So he can play a very difficult instrument like the 142. But not for the logic of the instrument, but for its his own resilience. Now let's focus on this instrument, the chromatic.
What happened is that the tango came in France with Arolas, with other musicians. The first musician during or just after World War One, 1918, 1920. And these guys were great musicians. They played well, and they had success in Paris. They started to make tango clubs, places where Argentinian people were playing. One was called El Garrón, one was called El Macmahon. There were names like this. You must think of one thing. In these years, Argentinian had a big money. They had made money with the war. They had sold leather. They had sold meat. France and Germany were totally ruined by the war. Imagine that for an Argentinian, not a rich guy, just a normal musician, to buy a German bandoneon was like for us buying a Chinese computer. It was cheap. So they came to Paris. Also, Argentinian people were not musicians, but the customers. They were also rich Argentinian people who had a lot of money. They came, they came to Paris, and they went dancing and drinking champagne and all these things. Accordion players wanted to play bandoneon, of course. I mean, they go for the market, and they love the music because it's wonderful music. So they went to they ordered to Arnold bandoneons. And when they have this thing, they say, but how in hell can we play that? There was no tradition, no teacher, no music, nothing. And they're saying, we cannot play that thing. So, I mean, they don't understand how it works. They started to play chromatic accordion, which was a new invention. The accordion before was also bisonoric, But they started to make these chromatic accordions, and they started to develop a technique with playing in all the keys and so on. So there was a guy, accordion player himself and composer and accordion tuner, Charles Pegury. Charles Pegury, he had the idea of taking all the reeds away, make a new plate, and change the position of the reed so that you can play with a logic system, and in and out, same sound, unisonoric.
Which is actually the same logic as the chromatic
accordion. Yeah,
it's actually the same.
The French bandoneon accordion, the French button accordion. I mean.
So someone who can play the French accordion takes a bandoneon, and he can play a chromatic bandoneon, and he can play it.
You can play it on the three first rows.
Okay. The other rows are different.
I mean, it's also logical. You have to learn it, but playing an accordion, you can play immediately on 3 rows. So they start to play that, and but it was you had to buy a new instrument. You had to start destroying it and changing the reeds and so on. And he decided to take a patent. Patent is from 1925. So in 1925, he patented the system, but people were already playing it, made by hand. So Alfred Arnold is interested because there is a market in France. So Alfred Arnold starts in 24, 26, maybe a bit later. They start to make this instrument called Pegury system.
Sorry, how many Pegury systems exist? Just one Pegury system or several?
No, there are several. The first was a system where you have the logic is like if you take a piano keyboard, you cut it in two, and then you have the notes from the bass going up, and then going up on the other side like this.
Okay.
Then some musicians they had the idea. They say, okay, it's better to have it parallel because what you can play in one hand, you can play in the other hand. If you know how to play one thing there, you can play it on the other side.
Sorry,
And
do you have the possibility to show a chromatic scale on your bandoneon?
si capisce?
Sì, sì.
Eccetera,
Yes, very
eccetera.
clever, very clever, very simple, and
So,
closing is the same.
yeah. And then all these, this is diminished accord. So with this system, there are only three fingerings for making scales. You make 12 scales with three fingerings.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
transpose them, and so this is really interesting for transposing for and the same at the left side.
so what's in your opinion the main advantage of this system?
I think for people like me, I am not a great memo technician. I have it incorporated the logic very easily, and if you play by ear, it's like you play a violin. You go up is treble, you go down is bass. It's like you play a guitar, or it makes sense. If the note is higher, it's going to be there. If the note is lower, it's going to be there.
So, for example, for improvising, it's a very
Yeah,
great advantage for
it's
improvising.
very adapted for improvising.
Yeah,
Very
and
adapted for
also,
improvising.
for example, if someone need to play a score with bandoneon for a jig in few time, he can play it with that instrument.
Yeah, I'm not very much. I don't play a lot by music. I play still a lot by ear. But my colleagues, I mean, William Sabatier is the guy who plays Chromatic Bandoneon. Lisandro Donoso is another one, French, very great musicians. I think they have played and recorded all Piazzolla music.
Gianni Iorio in
Gianni
Italy,
Riorio, yeah.
he plays a lot of Piazzolla.
They have played all the solo bandoneon from Federico, all the things they played with the chromatic bandoneon without special problems.
Okay, so if you compare this system to the 142, do you see any disadvantage in your opinion?
Yeah, it's this when you play written music, some phrase will be difficult to play opening. It might be very easy to play a closing, so you have a double option. But I think the main big advantage of 142 system is the culture which is behind.
Mm-hmm.
The traditions, the maestros, the notes, the arrangements. It's a whole culture. I mean, I had to do everything from scratch. I have to do everything by ear, which of course I made something a bit different than what the others do.
Yeah, actually, as we told during our call yesterday, the 142 system survived because of the tradition, not for the logical idea behind of it.
But there is another thing interesting. There was no industry in Argentina. They had no machines to make bandoneon because you need machines to make bandoneon. You need machine to make the reeds. You don't make all these reeds by hand. It would take a year. So they got this system and they never changed it. They put E and F, only two notes they changed from the German instrument.
Yeah.
two notes. So as they could not change it, they they made music with it. They developed all they can do with it. In Germany, they didn't stop changing system. They changed all the time because they had the industry. They had the so they made a new system every 5 years, every 10 years, and if you change the system, you cannot have a growing culture of people having tried everything with the fingerings and what you can do and so on, because it changes. And Argentinian, the interest of this system, it has not moved. So people that just studied it fully. But the system doesn't seem to import so much for people who have a good memo technique. My friend Per Glorvigen is a Norwegian bandoneon player, a great player. He told me it's a hell to learn it, but once you know it, it's the same as anything else. Once you know it.
Okay, so maybe we can start going in the discussion about the myths. There are a lot of myths about the chromatic bandoneon. For example, the first one I remember that I heard this is that it doesn't sound like a tango bandoneon, doesn't sound like a 142. And in my opinion, I don't know why there is this myth, but actually there is no difference in sound.
So there is one. There is one. Is a Pegury system. There are very few before the war, because they start in 28, for instance, 28 to mass product them, and in 39 is the war. No business between French and Germany. So the majority of the bandoneon which are still in circulation now, they are bandoneons from after the war. They don't sound well.
Okay.
They don't sound well, and there are so many of them. So that's also the reason people they heard those bandoneon. You have eBay is full of them. It costs $1,500. They have all the keys. They have bellows, but the sound is not good because they don't have the same reeds and they don't have the same quality of work. And also the amplification came. The sound was not so much a problem. People start to play with amplifying in the dancing balls. So they didn't need a really powerful instrument. They didn't care so much. You had the sound system. The interest of the old instrument, they were made for a period where you had big dancing ball, no microphones, and
Yeah.
people are drinking. People are it's a noisy atmosphere, and you have to go through that. So they were looking for really power and efficiency.
Yeah.
In the instruments.
Well, the second thing that is always said about the chromatic bandoneon is that it become difficult to play, for example, legato in certain parts of the keyboard, or it becomes difficult to play some particular scores or stuff like this. So, what's your experience about this myth?
I have little experience of scores because I'm not a reader. I don't have much experience of scores, but my colleagues, they don't seem to have problems. They have. There is young people now in France. They have made a remake of Octeto Buenos Aires. A very very difficult scores. This is only Piazzolla and Federico could play that at this time. And they were maybe Di Philippe or a few guys, but it was very very advanced. It was the most difficult thing you could play. And in this group there are two young people. There's Lisandro Donoso, he plays a Pegury system, and Carmela Delgado, she plays the Argentine system.
Together.
Together, and they play all these things very well. So it's I don't think this is a problem. I don't think this is a problem. I think that of course some arrangement for solo bandoneon, maybe some inversion of chords would have been done like this because the guy he made it easy for his system. For instance, Piazzolla used a lot of chromatic scales when he plays. Chromatic scale is something very easy on my system, but on his system it's very difficult. But he plays a lot of chromatic scales.
Is it true that Piazzolla was able to play both systems, the
No,
chromatic and just
no.
the bisonoric one?
Yeah. No. He didn't play the other one.
Okay, so it's very interesting that, in my opinion, is important that a person can decide, that know that there are options. For
Yeah,
example, when I started, I wanted to play the bisonoric for reasons, but maybe one person may say, no, I prefer to play the chromatic, the unisonoric. It's important that people know so they can decide.
so up to now, you can say that for a guy uh, who plays what they call free bass accordion with no chords, but every individual notes. Um, it's really very easy to adapt to bandoneon. I mean, it's totally different. The position, you don't, but mentally, the keyboard, you understand it at all.
So if someone would like to look for chromatic bandoneon, and he has the option to contact, for example, Arnold Company and ask for a
Yeah,
brand new. Another
sure.
option is to buy on the marketplace, but it's possible to find several options, and maybe it can buy the wrong one, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I mean, I cannot recommend buying bandoneon post-war,
Okay.
even in Argentinian system, because Arnold made instrument until I think 60, 68, 70, in DDR. And they made both systems. They made many systems. They made all the German systems and so on. And none of this system is good, not only because they used aluminum instead of zinc, not only for that, the quality of the voice, the quality of the work. So the problem, if you want to buy Pegury instrument, you will find many cheap ones which are post-war, which is good to start. You can learn with that, but it's not the real sound. This is true. This is not the real sound. I have advised some people to play Argentinian system. She's Finn from Finland,
Finland.
and she came to me when she arrived in France to learn accordion. And she likes tango. She's a very plays by notes, partiture and everything. And she needed teaching, like classical music teaching. I sent him to Mussolini. I said, you better go there. You better go there because there's a traditional teaching, and she went there. But some people want to play and sing along, accompany themselves, play jazz, improvise. So I would recommend if you play by ear, if you improvise, to play the Pegury system.
Yeah. Yes. So you are bandoneon player, but you are also bandoneon luthier.
Yeah, because
So-
I before I started to play bandoneon, I was making violins. I was a violin maker,
okay.
and I started to make bandoneons, and it was the time of Baroque music. So there was an interest for new instrument because they couldn't find Baroque original Baroque instrument. They had all been transformed into modern instruments. So I started to make instrument for Baroque music, and I started to play bandoneon at the same time. And then the Argentinians started to come. You need to help me repair that and so on, because I was a luthier, but I didn't know anything about the reeds. But I found out, and then I learned to tune. I had some advice from an old Italian tuner, which was retired and was doing tuning at his home. He taught me some things. I mean, he gave me some advices, and I learned a lot by making errors and things like that. And then little by little, more people coming for bandoneons and less customer for baroque music. So my workshop changed from violin to bandoneon. Then little by little, there was more and more demand for bandoneon repair because there was this school in Gennevilliers, Mussolini school, and lot of interest for bandoneon in France. So I started to repair, for them, and it was very interesting. So I little by little I switched from violins to bandoneons, and then I had to stop because I tell you, it was very interesting for me. It was very nice to know all these guys. Piazzolla, I had the bandoneon of Piazzolla in the workshop and everything. I learned a lot from them because of their demand, because I saw what they were playing very loud, and they needed to have the voice very stable. So I learned a lot from them. But then, as a whole, um, except for the stars, all the bandoneon players who were there in Paris, they were so broke. They had no money, and they were nice. And so I had to repair. And well, I have to repair. I play tomorrow. I have to do this. I broke a voice. I broke a. So I had to repair this immediately. Now I'll pay you next week because I have a gig, but I can't pay you now. And then they were nice, so we made coffees and started to play. Put the bandoneon start to play bandoneon, and every guy would stay 3 hours, and for lots of fun, very nice, but the money didn't come. So I had to decide now if I want to play, I have to practice, and I cannot go on. Um, luthier is a full-time job, like music. You cannot do both. All the luthier, them. They all play a little bit of bandoneon, but they have no time to play, no time to study. And so I decided to stop. It was very difficult. Mussolini kept coming, for Mussolini needed it was very, very difficult for. He needed absolutely good tuning. It couldn't support anything. His bandoneon had to be perfect. So it took a lot of time. And when I stopped, he said, "No, but yeah, really, you have to do it for me because I play tomorrow and things like that." And then I stopped charging. I say, "How much? How much I owe you?" You say, "You owe nothing." Why? Yeah, because I'm not a repairer anymore. And he said, "But I will not dare to come." I said, "That's what I want." And now I'm only experimenting because I had no time to do these things before. I had to repair and so on. And now I am experimenting, and I'm building now a new bandoneon system, a new bandoneon keyboard, which not necessarily a system. It can be adapted to all systems. I want to have the buttons much nearer to each other because I realize that many people with small hands, especially girls, like for instance, there are a lot of musicians from Asia playing. The Asian ladies have very small hands compared to Europeans, and they have difficulties. It's a torture to play bandoneon for reaching, the bass and the chord and so on. And so I had the idea that I should make the buttons nearer with the same distance as the right side. There is a constricting reason that the reeds are bigger in the left side, the bass. They are bigger than the treble. So therefore, the buttons they are far apart because you need the place for these reeds. And my idea is not to have the same mechanic. The mechanic will be made with an angle so that the reeds can be broad, but the button can be near. So I'm building that now, and I'm making one. I think this is important that the system, the left hand, be easier for girls, and it will be easier for men too. Of course, it's not the company Ella, the Ernst Louis Arnold. They had started to do that. They had made some kind of system to make the left hand a little bit nearer because probably people complained. So I think this is really a progress which has to be done on the bandoneon. Not changing for any system, making making the buttons more comfortable in the left hand.
The chromatic bandoneon, do you see it as a valid option? It's like another option for people that want to know this instrument, but they are scared by the difficult system.
I think that in Argentina it's almost impossible that people change the system. They will stay because they have this strong tradition and they play it well, and it's perfect. Everything is fine. The future is that um, in Europe, if people want to play tango, and there is also Mussolini Junior is teaching, and they are still teaching here. That it will go mostly for Argentinian system, but now people start to want to play bandoneon, not necessarily to link with tango. They can play tango if they want, but they just people start to play bandoneon because they love the instrument. People love the sound of this instrument. So accordion player, they love bandoneons. So if they want to play jazz, they want to play their own music, contemporary music, whatever. I think there is a future, especially because Arnold is making it. It exists with a good quality, so it will work. It will go on.
That was the idea of this chat, this conversation, to permit people knowing about the existence of other layouts, other systems, and so they can decide and approach another kind of bandoneon and maybe feel more comfortable. I'm really happy for this conversation together. If anyone would like to contact you to ask something about this system, how can he contact you?
I am on Facebook, and I am on Messenger.
Yes, and I invite people to listen to your albums because you have albums of jazz with bandoneon. I remember Thelonious Monk, for example.
Yeah, there is what they call a YouTube topic.
Uh-huh.
So they have 4 of my albums there on YouTube, and it's not all on the net, but I have a lot of videos also. A lot of videos where I play candombe, jazz, tango, all kind of things.
Okay, so it's another bandoneon. We can say this. It's not the typical bandoneon, but it's a bandoneon.
Yeah, and I played bandoneon because I like tango. I played with a lot of singers and Argentinian people. I had a tango band for years, So it's no problem with tango either.
Yeah. Tango, and not only tango.
Yeah.
Which in my opinion is important for the bandoneon. It has a very strong tradition with tango, but it is important that it will be used in other styles, not just tango.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
thank you very
Thank-
much for this
Thanks to you.
conversation, and
Hope to see
bye
you
bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye bye.